my name is Kyle, welcome back to another video. Today in this one I want to talk to you about Transaction Rollback. This is a new normal trap card that will be released in Maze of Millennia, and Transaction Rollback is getting a lot of hype right now. A lot of people are hyping this card up, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Is Transaction Rollback actually as good as people are saying it is? So in this video, I'll be covering the pros and cons with Transaction Rollback, and at the end of the video, I'll be giving you my thoughts on the card. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. But before we can cover the pros and cons with Transaction Rollback, we must cover the effect of Transaction Rollback. So it's a normal trap card that reads as follows. Pay half your life points, then target one normal trap card in your opponent's graveyard, except for Transaction Rollback. This effect becomes that trap card's effect when that card is activated. Then you can banish this card from your graveyard, then pay half your life points, target one normal trap in your graveyard, except for Transaction Rollback. This effect becomes that trap card when that card is activated, and you can only use one of the effects of Transaction Rollbacks per turn, and only once that turn. So that is the effect of Transaction Rollback. Now let's get into the pros of Transaction Rollback. So what are the pros when it comes to Transaction Rollback? Well, number one, it lets you activate a trap card in the graveyard, which is very, very insane. So let's say you have something like a Dogmatic of Punishment on your field. You can activate it, send a guy from your extra deck to destroy a monster and stuff like that. Then if you have Transaction Rollback in the graveyard, you can go effect a Transaction Rollback targeting the punishment that's in graveyard, and then you get that effect once again, which is very, very, very insane. It's another thing, like you can dodge things like Feather Duster and Lightning Storm as well, because if they happen to have those cards, sure, your trap cards are going to the graveyard, but if you have Transaction Rollback, you're still able to somewhat interact because you can copy a trap card in your graveyard, so you can still pretty much interact with the board, even though you got Feather Duster or Lightning Storm in a trap deck or something like that, right? So that's pretty good. And then number two, it does not copy the cost of the trap card, which is very, very, very good. This is kind of like the Diamond Dude with Destiny Draw kind of rolling way back in the day, where Diamond Dude would only copy the Draw 2 and not the discard one hero from Destiny Draw's effect. That's the exact same way with Transaction Rollback. So let's say the Mayakashi trap card, the Ghost Meets Girl, right? It says you need to tribute a Mayakashi monster to activate its effects, but since Transaction Rollback only copies the effect, you do not need to tribute a Mayakashi, and you'll get the effect of Ghost Meets Girl, which is basically just VFT, right? So you pretty much win the game there. So yeah, very, very good pros. Now let's get into the cons. So what are the cons when it comes to Transaction Rollback? Well, number one, the first effect isn't that great. So the on-field effect, while it's set, where you activate, you have to target a trap card in your opponent's graveyard, which isn't that great just because your opponent has to have a trap card in graveyard. You don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. So that first effect isn't great. Now, sure, something like Imperm is running around in the format and stuff like that. So there is a way where you still can technically activate this card while on the field, but again, that first effect isn't the greatest in the world. You would rather have the Transition Rollback in the graveyard. Number two, you can only use one of the effects per turn. So let's say you don't have a way to get Transaction Rollback into the graveyard, you have to set it. And let's say you activate it targeting a trap card in your opponent's graveyard just so you can get it to graveyard. But you can't activate the trap card in graveyard just because you can only use one of the effects per turn, which is very unfortunate. It'd probably be broken if you can use both effects on the same turn, so that's probably a good thing, but that is a con in out of itself. And then number three, no matter what effect you use, you do have to pay half your life points, which could be a con depending on the deck. Like if you're playing Dynamorphia, like obviously that's probably not that bad, but pretty much in every other deck, paying half your life points is steep, so you have to make sure you're copying a really good trap card for that half your life point, because paying half your life point just puts you closer to death and stuff like that. So yeah, those are the cons with Transaction Rollback. Now let's get into my thoughts on the card. So what is my thoughts on Transaction Rollback? Well, I think it's a good card. I think it's a good card, and it will see play in the upcoming formats, and it's a card you do have to worry about. Obviously, the first deck that comes to mind when you think of Transaction Rollback is, well, Labyrinth. Labyrinth can obviously take advantage of this card like it's nothing. It's a normal trap card. They have ways to get Transaction Rollback into the graveyard with the furniture stuff like Stovey and Chandelier, right? So even hard drawing the Transition Rollback is not even that bad because you can just pitch it to graveyard to make sure you get the graveyard effect, which is better than the first effect. And then, copying like a big, like say if you activate Big Welcome on the field, it gets ashed, you can go Transaction Rollback rollback in the graveyard, copy the big effect so you can make sure your big resolve so you can get your plays going, right? So transaction rollback is really good for the deck. But another thing for Labyrinth as well is you can just copy the power traps, right? So, you know, copy like a Jaruma can, or talking like the Dogmatica Punishment is always going to be good no matter what, right? So transaction rollback immediately fits into Labyrinth like it's nothing. But another thing about transaction rollback is now it's kind of an FTK card as well. If you're playing a deck that can make like something like a Beatrice, you can pretty much play an FTK, right? Because during your turn, you can go Beatrice effect, dump transaction rollback. Then during your opponent's turn, you can dump Ghost to Meet Girl, the Mayakashi trap card that VFT locks, transaction rollback copies the effect. You don't need a tribute because it doesn't copy the cost. So it just locks your opponent from playing the game, which is absolutely dumb, right? So now transaction rollback is kind of this FTK card that you do have to worry about. So overall, I think transaction rollback will see play. It probably will be up in price as well, just because it's from a really shit side set in Maze of Millennia, and it's probably one of the few cards, and they made it the highest rarity as well. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content on the channel, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.